Well, thank you so much for joining us here today. I'm Kat Purcell. I'm the career librarian at Champaign Public Library. I'm happy to have you and happy to introduce Nicole. She is the co-founder of Defy the Trend. She's going to talk to us today about finding your purpose and all kinds of other things to help you along your job path or prospective job path.
Right.
So I'll let you take it
Awesome.
over.
Thank you all, Kat. Thank you, Kat. Thank you, library. I love being here. And thank you, friends, for joining us today. The thing about doing a workshop here at the library is that it's planned well in advance. That's not a bad, I actually fully support that. On the other hand, my thinking evolves over the, 4 months or whatever since we put this on. And so I've changed the title. But you'll still get what I said I was gonna do. I expanded it, possibly too much. You can tell me if it's too much expansion. This is just how my brain works. And then I'll pare it back down based on what you guys tell me is actually useful or not. So I'm thinking about this a little more broadly today about creating a rest-centered job search. So something that takes you into account and what your needs are and like what your realities are, right? Because most of us, if you're working another job or you have kids or you're taking care of elders or whatever the case may be, your life has other components to it, not just the job search. So how do you balance that with your own needs for rest, for what the other things you need to do? So we're gonna cover all of that, including like being grounded in values, which is something I talk about a lot, and being grounded and sort of firmed up in what you're passionate about, what you care about. And so I'm excited to share that all with you today. And I'll be eager to hear your feedback because like I said, this is, when I presented on Burnout the last time I was here, that was something I do fairly often. This is kind of a new amalgamation of stuff that I do. So I'll be really interested to hear what you say. But we'll see how it goes. So again, this is me. Kat already said I'm Nicole Havelka. I am the founder of Defy the Trend, which is a burnout recovery coaching community. And I do for organizations that are aligning with values and want to work not to burn out people. I work with those organizations on how to build sustainable systems so that they have healthy employees who want to continue to stay there and work there. These are just some ways to find me. I'm on LinkedIn. Defy the Trend is my website. I have a Substack, and now I have a podcast. And all of those things are listed on those sheets that handed out, or if you're watching the recording later, I'm sure we'll have links to all that stuff on YouTube. Oh, and it came back, thank goodness. Okay. So I would love to hear from the people in the room. If you're willing, you can say, I pass. Or if you would love to say who you are, kind of what brought you here today, like what are you curious about? Again, this is sort of new, and so I can like even make stuff up as we go along if we needed to. And if you could wave a magic wand and like eliminate, like if you could make one aspect of the job search process disappear, what would that be? That you find that you just don't like at all. I'll give you a second to think about that. And then if you're willing to introduce yourself again, you can just say pass if you would rather not talk in front of the group, which is totally fine. Anybody want to go? Like, oh yeah, go. You might have some insights too, and like what parts would you, or what do you hear people say the most too? That's another question. Yeah. Oh, the waiting part. Right. You get the job or not. The waiting part, does that resonate? Yeah. You're okay. We can come back to you.
Because I do have so many interests in so many things.
Mm-hmm.
Caught up in choosing just one thing.
Oh yeah.
I'm interested in a lot of things. I want to do a lot of things, but when I have to choose just one, I have a really hard time doing that. And I wanted to see what I can learn here today.
Okay.
And I think I've been working a little bit more like on career stuff over like the past year and a half. And just the preparation and everything, I love it, but it takes a lot out of me.
Yeah.
At your last time you were here, that I was like severely burned out. And so I'm trying to incorporate a lot more rest just in my day-to-day with
Okay.
everything that I'm doing and just balancing everything a little more. But I think now as I work up to the interview process, I've been having a lot more anxiety because of what the interview represents and just the entire process and finding out if I've been chosen or not, or if I'm like a good candidate.
Yeah.
Probably a little too much overthinking.
Yeah. Okay. That's totally fair. That waiting part is really terrible. And some places will go really quick, and then others, it just depends on the circumstance, right? How fast a person can get back to you and what they have to run up the chain of command to get an okay and all kinds of stuff that has nothing, literally nothing to do with you. But the process can take forever, right? And then you might still find out that, oh, they chose another candidate or whatever. Yeah. Did you want to add anything or no?
The one thing that I've removed from the job search process, I'll answer that problem.
Go for it.
I would say that clunky submission applications is very difficult. It's very frustrating when you go through the time to build a resume, import it into a job search platform,
Right.
and then have to manually re-enter the information that you just provided.
Right.
But it is completely unnecessary.
Completely unnecessary. Agreed. I haven't applied for very many jobs recently, but the ones I have run into that where, like, I have a beautifully constructed resume. Why do you want me to read? Now I have to, well, and it's someone else's format too. So you're like copying and pasting and reformatting it for whatever they do. That is super frustrating, for sure. I don't have a solution for that, unfortunately, because I don't make those tech systems, but we're going to put that on the video, and maybe some powers that be will hear us say, can you fix those systems? Because it's ridiculous. It makes it so hard to apply for a job, right? When in theory, the online process should make it easier, and it simply does not. It does not. Well, thank you for being so vulnerable and sharing that with me. That'll help me kind of focus on certain things that I have in my slide deck. So here's what I have planned, and again, we can spend more or less time on some of these things. We're going to talk about naming your values. I know a couple of you have been with me before. We've done this exercise, but I don't think it ever hurts to refresh. And I want you to envision sort of the life that you want, not just the kind of job that you want today. We're going to work a little on that. And then we're going to learn about burnout, which is something I usually talk about. We're going to do that very, very small amount, but just to give us a little context to that, we don't want you burning out with your next job. And then that'll help you decide some things like what's okay and what's not okay in your next job for you. And then I'm going to invite you to have your inner wisdom be your guide. There's lots of ways to like you were talking about like having all of these passions and interests, and there's all kinds of ways, right? There's tools for doing skills assessment and like interest assessment and what kind of job might be a good match for you, right? Those are all good things. I'm not saying they're bad, but I also think you can sort of connect with yourself. And there's those external things can be tools, but you can be you're really the measure, right? You're the one that's taking the job and like is going to like it or not, or enjoy it or not. And then I'm going to invite you into, I'm going to give you some suggestions of how to develop a rest-centered job search plan. I'm going to give you some options for that. Obviously, this is a lot of things. I won't spend a lot of time on any of them. But if you say, for those of you in the room, like really just say, pause me, stop me. I don't get flustered easily. You can totally interrupt and ask questions. I'm cool with that. That's how I do everything. The other thing I wanted to do before we go any farther is to acknowledge the world we live in. Because I think I'd be remiss in saying, oh, you're searching for a job at a totally normal time in human history. Not that normal is a thing, but this is an extremely anxious time to do something that's extremely anxious, right? Because what's happening, I just pulled one random photo for this, but the economy and the job market feels really unstable, and you're not wrong, it is. That's actually a thing. There's all kinds of you have all of these, honestly, the world just feels like it's on fire. Sorry, I needed my notes for a second. I told you I was putting new things together. I was trying to do it without my notes. Oh, and burnout is the norm. This was true before the current kind of dumpster fire that the world is, but like burnout is the norm because grind culture is the norm. Like that this pressure to constantly do and produce and be productive is just a feature, not a bug, of a toxic capitalist system. And this may be happening to you like the way that they, whoever they are, say to do a job search, maybe just doesn't work for you. But there's a lot of ways to do it. There isn't one way. There's never one way to do anything. But maybe we can help you find maybe a way that fits you and your circumstances, your personality, the way your brain works, all that jazz that you can do. So that's what we're going to do. I wanted to acknowledge the world around us. So why don't we do a little bit of grounding? I've told some of you before that I'm also a yoga and meditation teacher, among the many things that I do. And some of you mentioned some anxiety that comes up because of the job search and, I don't know, because of the world. So I'm gonna invite you just really quickly into a moment of grounding. And so I'd invite you maybe to feel your feet on the floor, if that feels good to you. Maybe, or feel your hips against the chair that you're in. And then take a look around the room. This isn't probably a familiar room to most of us, so just take slowly as you want, take a look around the room. Kind of check out where the doors and windows are. You might look above you at this really cool ceiling. Like the ceiling down here is really funky, I love it. And you might look at the floor. Again, you might shift around a little in your seat just to get yourself grounded, your sits bones grounded in your seat, feeling into your feet. Wiggling your fingers or toes, whatever feels good to you. This is just a way to get your body acclimated to the room. That's actually not even really that much yoga. That's really a technique to help your nervous system calm down in any new space. It's a trauma-informed practice for that. So just so you know, it's a good little trick to use anytime, but especially when you're in a new space. So that's your extra little bonus tip today. And why won't this click? There we go. So as I promised, I'm going to invite you into thinking big picture about the why of your job search. And I know the why, the pressing why is usually because I need money to pay my bills, etc. I'm not saying that isn't real, because believe me, it's real. I'm an entrepreneur, I know that is real in a big bad way. But being grounded in kind of our sense of value, both our sense of value and our values, is a good way then to judge what kind of work is best for us. And then eventually, specifically, what kind of job is good for us. So I would invite you to take a look at this. This is, again, a list of values on the screen. And this isn't exhaustive by any stretch of the imagination. It might make you think of other words. But if you have a piece of paper, you can use the back of one of those sheets that Kat might have given you. I think I have some extra paper too if anyone needs it. And if you want to take a moment to look at this list and pick out 2 or 3 that seem to resonate with you, or you can look through it and write down whatever. Oh, thanks, Kat. Or you can think through it if you'd rather not write. That's also cool. Or if you're like, yeah, I don't want to do this, then just wait for the next part. You might like it better. That's totally fine. So I'll give you just a minute or so to go through that. And I know a couple of you did this exercise with me already, so it might go pretty quick for you. And again, the list might give you ideas of other words, so feel free to write your own. Did anything pop out to any of you? And if for those of you who have done it before, is anything different than the last time, or is it the same? And if nothing, that's fine. Okay. Were those new from the last time, or the same?
As far as like my values, maybe they could be new, maybe.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine. That's cool. Anything else that people noticed? Maybe it's just one that jumped out to you. Doesn't have to be 3. Some people are, yeah, that's cool. So if you even had one, I would say, how does that then connect? And you're like, okay, what does this have anything to do with like the bigger my job search? So I would invite you to think about it. And I'm not necessarily going to go through all of this in extreme detail just because there's, I have more things to cover and I want to leave us time to chat at the end. Like, so if I value, and you can put your value word or words in there, then I would prioritize what in my life concretely. So if you, using adventure as the example, if I value adventure, then I prioritize what in my life? Yeah, maybe flexibility might be that. Time away, or a job that, really is varied. You probably could come up with better words than that, but like has a lot of variety, different things that I would do, like that's just a great example of that. So, and similarly, this is just another way of putting it. Like you might fill in this sentence like, okay, I value this, then my employer will do this and they will not do this, right? So thinking it in terms of, that's kind of black and white, and I know things aren't always that black and white, but like they will or will not do things. And I'm gonna give you more time with that part especially. I thought this was working and it's like not liking me now. It might be. So again, I'm encouraging you to really think about how you want your life to be and centering that before you center the job. Because I know I've spent most of my life saying, oh, this is the thing I really want to do, the job I really want, and searching for it. I spent no time until very recently thinking about what kind of life do I want? And what does the job need to support first? And I'm constantly thinking about that and running my own business because I can do terrible things to myself as much as a job could have, trust me. Those habits are internalized, unfortunately. So here's some things. These are just some ideas of the kinds of things that you might think about as you envision your life. What about you? Whenever I lead any planning session or anything like this, I always invite people to think about themselves. Like, so what about your well-being? Like your professional growth, like how do you want to grow? How can this job support that? And then your relationships. What is the time you want for the people that matter most to you? That's usually a time thing, but how does relationships come into that for you? That can be family, that can be friends, that can be any number of things. Being in the community, are there volunteer things you want to be able to do? Activism, participation in causes. And what is that, like how does the job support that or not? Your home, so your physical home, but also your home life. How do you want your life to be? And then anything else I haven't covered. So I would encourage you to do that. Like, again, I don't have I'm gonna move through this fairly quickly, but those are things to be thinking about as you're like, I want my life to be X, so my job needs to be like this, kind of thing. I keep forgetting that I just need to do that. So this can help you create what I'm calling like an okay and not okay list. And I borrow this language from Brene Brown, if you've ever read any of her stuff. And she has a video from a long time ago that I didn't use, Kat, today, even though I have it. And I have found her definition of boundary really helpful for a long time. And she says, boundaries are just this, what's okay and not okay for you. And those boundaries can change, by the way. And for that matter, different circumstances demand different boundaries sometimes, or dealing with different people. So when you're thinking about not okay and okay, here's some things you might be thinking about. So like expectation of work hours, like what is okay or not okay for you, given those other things that you want to be able to do? What is okay for you? What are the benefits that you need? Which will be different for all of us, right? If you have a family with small children, that's a different need than a single person like me. Those are just different. That's just one example. Like, what is the salary that you need to support those other things that you want? How would the workplace you're in communicate with you? How do they communicate? I don't think I wrote this down, but how do they support your growth? That would be another way of thinking about some of those things. Is it remote work or an office site? which of those things do you want that would work better for you? And then maybe asking things like, what is their review process? Like, how do they, this can be telling. And most people don't ask that in advance, right? I know I didn't for a long time. But what is that's another. These are just examples of questions, but these are some things. So from this framework, I would invite you to think of questions that you would ask the employers you're interviewing with. And I know some of you said you were actively interviewing right now. What are some questions you would ask them? Because here, I'm going to tell you a little secret. You're interviewing them as much as they're interviewing you. And I know it doesn't feel that way because they have the power whether or not to hire you, which has huge impact on your finances, which then by extension has a huge impact on your life, right? That's true. There is a lot of power, but you always can say no to things too. I'm just telling you that you can say no. So you're interviewing them as much as they're interviewing you. And I think the right employer will appreciate that you've come in with thoughtful questions, or even questions that might make them a little uncomfortable. And if they can tolerate that, that probably means they're a decent employer, quite honestly. So I would encourage you to really write some provocative, and I mean provocative in the sense that it sort of really gets at some interesting conversation. Like some provocative questions that you want to ask. And you can write those, you can have some generic ones down, but those can also come up as a result of research you've done on the company, come about as in the course of the conversation. But I also think it's good to have a few stock questions in mind that you'll have, because otherwise it's really easy to forget them you're nervous in the heat of the moment, or even have them written down on a sheet of paper. Often at the end of an interview, people will say, do you have any questions? Well, then you're going to have at least one ready. It depends on sometimes you don't have time to ask all of your questions, but know what the top one is that you're like, if I ask nothing else in that 30-minute interview, I'm going to ask that. And again, I think the right place is going to appreciate that you ask interesting questions. So here's the part about passions and purpose, right? And I mentioned earlier, I'm going to talk about burnout first. And how that connects to your passion and purpose. So one of the things that Emily and Amelia Nagoski, who wrote this book, Burnout, talk about is one thing that can help insulate us from burnout. It's not the only thing, but one of those things is kind of being connected to a higher sense of purpose. Because we can sort of tolerate a lot of uncomfortable things or trouble. Just because you're going through a rough patch at an employer, that doesn't always mean they're bad, that you need to quit, I don't think. So sometimes it can help you get through the tough stuff. And some of that's okay, as long as it's not toxic or abusive, right? But you might be just going through a tough growth period or challenging period for one reason or another. Or there's some big project they're trying to launch and that's just messy, or whatever the case may be. So I want you to be able to identify burnout, though, when you do see it, when it might be coming for you. And I'll do this quickly. Emotional exhaustion, so a sense of numbness, of not being able to connect with people or not caring. Depersonalization, which is a fancy word for basically sort of that numbness, somebody's talking to me about whatever their problem is, and you're like, I just don't care anymore. That's sort of, sometimes people call this compassion fatigue in helping professions, which is a real thing. So you might feel I'm disconnected from people. Or you just sort of have that sense of apathy, you just don't care. And then there's also a decreased sense of accomplishment usually. So there's this sense that no matter what I do matters anymore. So not what I do doesn't matter. So what happens when we feel that way? We generally quit engaging. Because if what we do doesn't matter, it's not going to make anything better or whatever, I'm just going to chill. I'm going to take a step back and I'm not going to offer anything, or I'm only going to offer what I absolutely have to. And so those are signs of burnout. I'm not assuming anyone is burnout right now necessarily in this group, although people watching the video later might be. But those are sort of the classic hallmarks. And they're named in the book Burnout, but these were actually created by a German psychologist in the 1970s named Herbert Freudenberger, in case you were ever wondering about that. That might come up in bar trivia or something sometime, I don't know. That'd be great if it did, and I would know that answer, because I've said it so many times. So I'm going to invite you into a little bit of a process with. The other process I sort of alluded to, and you can take time later. So if you want to do like a brain dump, if that's good for you, or again, you can do it in your mind, or you can like write on paper if that helps you. What are like questions, worries, ideas, hopes? Just put it all on a sheet of paper, or again, lay it out in your mind if that's useful to you, or in your computer if you have a computer or a phone. I'm going to give you a minute or so to just write down all the stuff. Just go blah. What are all the questions you have, worries, ideas, hopes, blah, blah, blah about the job search. And I'll give you a minute or so to do that. And then I should have said that I hope that this brain dump, and then I'm going to lead you through another process with this, will help get you to an important question for yourself about your purpose. Should have told you where we were heading. But for now, just dump it all out. Or think through it. Are things coming up for you? You have enough time? Okay. So take a look at that, or kind of review that list in your head, if it's in your head. What is really jumping out at you about the job search? What is jumping out to you? If you have a piece of paper, you can circle or underline the things that are jumping out to you. Take a look at those. Did anything jump out to you about that question? Anyone? Or again, that's okay if not. So here's what I'm hoping it will help you do, is form a question that you're going to use in a meditation that I'm going to lead in just a couple of minutes. So you can frame this as like, what are my next steps regarding fill in the blank? Or would I be better supported by blank, blank, or blank if you're trying to choose between things, for example? Like say you had a couple of different jobs you were looking at. Would I be better served by this one or this one? Or it might be multiple options. Or all those passions that you were mentioning earlier, Joanna, like would I be better served to follow this direction, or this direction? And maybe it's more of a general question, like what would really ignite my passion right now? What would really ignite my passion and purpose? So do you all have a question that you can work with? And again, it doesn't have to be perfect, because I'm going to lead you in a little guided meditation next. It's a meditation that has been really helpful to me, called a contemplation meditation. And so you take that question that you had, and what I'm going to invite you to do, we're going to do a little bit of breathing, and then I'll invite you to drop that question into your mind, into your heart. And then sometimes people call this the cave of the heart, or somewhere deeper. I always kind of direct people to think of it in their belly, but it doesn't have to feel, it can feel wherever in your body. But sort of the cave of the heart, or sometimes the soul is the word I use, depends on the context. But like some deeper place of knowing for you. And so is that okay? Can we give that a try? And if you don't want to try it, that's cool. You can just tune out and like take a little extra note, or take a nap. But I'll invite you to make a comfortable seat. Maybe put your feet on the floor. You can, if it's comfortable only, you can close your eyes or soften your gaze. If you're here in the room with me, I do keep eye on the door and what's coming and going. Make sure this is a safe space. Again, maybe feeling your sits bones in the seat that you're in. And then perhaps feeling into your breath, like the natural rhythm of your breath. Noticing its natural rise and fall, kind of the space the breath takes in the body. You may notice a sense of movement in your body or kind of a way that energy is moving if you feel it that way. The breath might be fast or slow. Maybe really full, or maybe a little bit shallow today, or always somewhere in between that. And then on your next inhale, maybe bring to mind that question that you have about your job search. Bring that question to mind. And kind of drop it into the mind. And if it helps to have a space in your body to drop that in, you might want to think about the third eye point, the point between your eyebrows. But you don't have to think about a body part if that's not useful. Always make the practices I'm suggesting your own. And drop that question in there and just see what comes up. That might be images, that might be words, might be colors or shapes, or maybe nothing at all, and that's okay. Inviting your mind to offer its internal wisdom about the question you have about your job search. And then feeling free to stay with that, or if you would like, drop your question into the heart. And if it helps to have a space in the body to drop that, it might be the center of the chest. You might drop that question in the center of the chest. And notice what arises. And again, that can be images, thoughts, words. Even if your mind is wandering at times, and it will, maybe notice what it's wandering about. Sometimes that can be instructive to us too. So resting in your heart for just a moment and seeing how is your heart speaking to you about this question? And again, if nothing comes up, that's okay too. Sometimes that happens. And then taking one more inhale and exhale, I would invite you to drop that question into the cave of the heart or into some deeper place of knowing for you. For some of us, that might feel like dropping that into the belly or the navel center. But again, if having a body part to anchor doesn't resonate with you, just skip it. Dropping that question into that cave of the heart or that deeper place of knowing. And what might it be offering you? That might be questions, that might be images, thoughts, shapes, colors, words. I'll give you a little bit of time to rest there. Taking another inhale and exhale. And then bringing yourself out of this time of reflection, contemplation, meditation. You might do that by wiggling a finger or toe. You might do that by stretching a little, moving side to side, whatever feels good and comfortable to you. And then if anything came up and you want to you want to keep it from that time, you want to really hold on to that idea or whatever image or whatever came up, maybe jot it down, or you might be able to remember it. But something you really want to imprint that might have come up in that time for you. And again, I really want to impart that I know this seems woo-woo and it seems weird to do this in the context of job search, right? But like our inner knowing is something that is really important and that we often ignore. I know that for me, and not everyone resonates with this, but like for me, if my gut feels off about something, generally it pans out to be not okay later. Like it might take months or even years to get there, but it's sort of not feeling right with me. It's probably not going to be right later. And I've just learned that many times over the hard way, right? And so I'm imparting to you that you can use that inner knowing too, whether it's your gut feeling or some other, maybe it's your heart, maybe it's some other way that your body feels, or that your mind thinks, something your mind thinks, if that resonates better with you. Did anything come up for people that might have been new or different? And you don't necessarily have to get an aha moment from this. Actually, the whole reason my business was, not the whole reason, but a part of the reason my business was born was because I did this for a month straight every day. I did this practice. And eventually, like there were themes in it that came up and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna do that, right? And I didn't have a clear vision of what the business was gonna be, but I had a sense of what, kind of like you were saying, the things that I really needed to combine. And I decided for me, there was no job that was going to hold all the things I wanted to do. So I made my own. That's what I did. But I'm weird that way. That doesn't have to be your path. Anything come up for you that was interesting? Or you can tell me not at all. Nicole, nothing came up. Okay, that's cool. We can always talk about it later too when we're done. So again, thinking through all of these things that these tools that you might use. So you now have a clear sense of your values, which I hope would get you to what's okay and not okay in your employer. You have interview questions that I hope you ask. I'm encouraging you to ask people. And then hopefully a slightly deeper connection and a tool to help you tap into what are you passionate about? What are your purpose? What do you feel like that higher purpose is, if that's something that means a lot to you? And so make those lists. I encourage you to spend after this a little bit more time on making those lists and thinking through that when you have a little bit more time and space. So next, I'm going to get to the pragmatic stuff. Well, first of all, I'm going to remind you that you are worthy of rest. I didn't do that earlier. You are worthy of rest even in a job search. So your rest and your well-being matters. Few people are going to tell you that today, so if at all. So I'm going to be the one to do it. You're worthy of rest. And so given that, you're going to have limit because of the circumstance of your life, because of what you need for rest, all of those factors, you're going to have limited time to do your job search, right? So one of the things I like to do, so I can be really intensely woo, and I can also be really pragmatic. This is one thing I like to do, and so you're like, wait, I feel like I'm like a little bit of whiplash, that's the word I was looking for. A little whiplash, but that's right. This is sort of part of who I am. I try to make it also intensely practical for you. You're worthy of rests. So here's some ways that you can think of structuring your job search. And none of them are right or wrong. You can create a hybrid of these. And these are just ideas. These are 3 ideas I came up with, but you can have a whole lot of other ones. So this is a way that if you're struggling to get things done with your job search, this might help, especially if your brain just doesn't seem to work like what everyone says it should work like, which I'm not sure that thing, like our brain, there is a standard way for it to work because we're all so different, but whatever. So here's an example, like if you're gonna think of your job search then in terms of goals and tasks, It might, like I have some coaching clients who really like to I need to know what all of the things I need to get done, and I like really big lists. Some people like that. So you might think of it as like goals and tasks. So every week, I say I want to do 3 applications a week, and I want to do 1 networking reach out. So it's in terms of tasks, the things you want to get done. And you might even break those into really tiny micro steps if you want. Some people, I do this for myself sometimes when I'm overwhelmed or I'm like, wait, 3 applications, that's a lot to think through. There's a lot involved in like we were just talking in an application, all the, like the silly rewriting that you might have to do on one of those online applications or something. So you might want to break that into steps. So maybe today, in the time I have, I open the document and I paste the old resume into something before I edit it tomorrow. You might even do something as simple as that, and you'll feel that sense of accomplishment, like, oh, I'm closer to doing that thing. Or maybe you're even like, where is my old resume? I have that problem with old documents. You're like, where is it? It might take you 20 minutes to find it. So hopefully that's not the case, but sometimes it does. So you might want to budget and just, okay, I have 20 minutes today and that's all I'm going to do. But the next time I sit down, I'm going to have that right away. I'm going to have that right away and ready to go. So another way to do this is like thinking about time and how much time that you have to do things. And some people like to do this time blocking thing. Oh, sorry, there's a typo in there. Time blocks rather than tasks, but blocks have a K in it. So you might think of 2 or 3 one-hour blocks each week. Maybe that's how much time you can devote to that. Or you might even break them up into smaller chunks, like 2 by 25-minute, sometimes people call them focus sprints, or it's the Pomodoro technique. If you Google that, you can find it. It's the idea that you work best in like 25-minute increments and then take a 5-minute break, 25 more minutes, 5-minute break, and you do that for no more than 4 cycles of that, so no more than 2 hours straight of that. When I do that, for me, when I do that, I work way better and I'm far less tired at the end of a longer chunk of work. I don't always do it, but when I do, I usually like it. But again, that doesn't work for everybody. Or at least making sure you're taking a break about once an hour is a good idea. But say you have 3, so if you're working with 3 hours a week, how do you divide those things up? And one of the ways you can do this too is by having theme days. So you can have like, oh, on Monday I work on resumes. On Wednesdays I do applications. Fridays I go to networking. Things like that. So you can have it themed out or structured in that way. You can also think of this as just tiny incremental steps. This is especially if you're really busy and you have a lot going on and you're like, I only have this much time to do the search, right? I have these. So think of it as tiny itty bitty steps that you can do. So you might do something like, so you might just say, I'm going to do 1 or 2 realistic steps every week. And you might do something like, okay, this week I'm going to update my LinkedIn bio, which can be a whole thing. Like there's a lot involved in that. Ask someone a career question. You can come here to the library, ask a question. You can attend a lunch and learn, which you've got check off your list this week, friends who are here, or if you're watching the video, you can check that off. You've already done that. So you can think of this as small, elegant steps that you might be doing. And then for accountability, it might be helpful to think about doing this with another person. So I know for a lot of us, particularly for people who have ADHD brains, co-working is really, really helpful. Because I actually just led this online. I do virtual co-working with one of the communities. I'll say about it in a minute. One of the communities I run online, we do about weekly, we do virtual co-working, and we were talking about how having that small bit of accountability, the only thing we're doing is logging into a Zoom call together. No one's lording over anyone else and telling them what to do, right? Because we don't even know what you're gonna do. I usually ask people what they're working on, but I don't care whether you get it done or not. I'm not that invested, but somehow it's like someone's here and oh my gosh, I have to get it done because I'm with other people. And that might be coming here and working with someone in a study room. I've sometimes done co-working that way too. Just a shout out to the study rooms, which I think are great here. So one of my favorite things, honestly. They also have whiteboards, which I'm super fond of. I'm a big fan. Or you can put Post-its all over the walls and you don't have things on the walls to get in the way. But co-working and accountability sometimes is really helpful, especially if you're struggling to get things done. Try that. Grab a friend and say, Even if that friend isn't job searching, can you come to the library with me for an hour while I work on this? Maybe they want to read a book or do something here and do that. So I'm wondering if maybe there's one next step. I know I've covered a lot of weird territory today, and I did warn you that I'm experimenting a little with this presentation. So is there one little, again, it doesn't have to be the biggest thing, but what is one tiny next step that you might take? And you can write that down, you can put it in your task list, you can speak it out loud if it helps, but no pressure. Anything come up today that would be a next step for any of you all? If there's one little thing even that you're attaching to. That what? Say that again?
Lessening the amount of things to do in a week, maybe something a little more realistic.
Oh, okay, yeah. So maybe making your list a little more realistic about what to do. I like that. Yeah. Because then all we do, if we make the list too long or the project too big, it just gives us that sense of failure, like you're never getting it right. And who needs that? None of it, then we just quit on it, right? And you need to keep going with your job search or with whatever you're doing. Yeah.
Or even I was thinking about, I figured out what I wanted, not job searching.
Right.
I figured out a project I wanted to focus on next.
Yeah, yeah.
And I was thinking about your comment on can't figure out what aspect of jobs to focus on.
Oh, yeah.
A couple of years ago, feeling like I had gained too many hobbies, and I wasn't doing any of them.
Yeah.
There was too many, and I couldn't pick which one to do. So I just like wrote them all down, and then made myself rank them, which was like low stakes.
Yeah.
Because nothing depended on this except for my own happiness. Which
Yeah,
made it harder.
but that matters.
It did help me figure out, okay, maybe this hobby doesn't bring me joy anymore.
Yeah.
I don't have to do it, and that's okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Help you with your job search. Like, okay, this one is less exciting to me than these other options.
Yeah. Especially on like low energy days, I think that's important. And just sometimes it's like, just pick the thing that I actually have energy or that bring me joy or that make me feel better or whatever. Like that's okay to pick those things. Sometimes even if it's not, it doesn't feel like the most pressing thing, right? Sometimes it's simply helpful to get that one thing done. Yeah, I like that. Yeah. Like, and I think stepping back sometimes, like especially in that circumstance you were just naming, like I have too many things, like what do I do first? Sometimes it is really helpful to go to that bigger picture and say, okay, what's important to me? And then that also can guide you in to what is the most important priority. I didn't get into all the, like I can make connections from that into planning. We can talk about doing that another day, but like I teach that a lot of times. I usually lead that values exercise with people doing planning sessions with me and then lead that into like the more concrete, how do you put this on your calendar stuff? So you can do that. And I think it's helpful to like take a step back instead of being so task driven and just getting the next thing, because you need to get off the hamster wheel sometimes and take a breath. Well, I want to thank you. I forgot. I was going to mention I'm doing this again. I'll probably modify it. If you have friends that need some aspect of this, I'm doing this again. I forgot this slide was here. I'm doing the same workshop at the Urbana Park District, actually, on April 22nd. So if you know a friend who might need this, or anyone, if you want to send any one of your folks there, if the Health and Wellness Center is easy enough for them to get to. But I'm doing that again here next month, April 22nd. I would love to hear your feedback. So if you scan this, will get you to a, I forgot to have us print them now that I think about it, but it's a feedback form. So the first 3 questions in the form is just to tell me what was most useful or not. Like I said, I'm experimenting, so I really would appreciate the feedback. There's some additional questions in there that if you want to answer them, you can. If not, like just do the first 3 and skip past that. But I would love to hear your feedback, or we'll probably hang out for a few minutes we can talk too, for those of you who are in the room. But if any of you, that feedback form probably won't go away. We can put a link to that into the notes on YouTube too. I don't mind hearing it later on. And then I'll also mention, if you really did like the calendaring and the accountability stuff, I have something called the Calm Calendar Club, which I've now launched, which is, it's an online community, and you get some resources for how to do the planning I was just mentioning, sort of the values-based planning that leads you into the calendaring. I have a bunch of online tools and resources for that. And then we also do the virtual co-working at least once a week, and I'm experimenting with time right now. Like I had been doing it on Thursday mornings, and now it's kind of all over the map because I'm trying to see what works for people. And if you had a suggestion about that, that's cool. But this is a simple offer. It's only $30 a month or $300 a year. I've kept it really accessible, or as accessible as I can. And that's about all. And that's how to connect with me. If you have any more comments or questions, I'm happy to hear those. Maybe even if they, well, I'm sure you peruse the chat every once in a while on YouTube if people have questions, but Kat knows how to reach me if you need that. Thank you, Kat, for letting me be here.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you,
Nicole.
thank you.
I appreciate having you back in.
Thanks.
And look forward to the next time.
Cool.
So,
Thank you so much. Appreciate you.